Hi and welcome to All Things Photography. My name's Nick, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the GVM SD300B AIO. AIO means all-in-one. That alone could be a reason to buy this super powerful light. So the usual caveat out of the way before we start, and that is that I was sent this for review, so I haven't paid for it. But if you know me and if you've seen some of my other videos, you'll know that I only accept things to review if I think I'll like them or use them, or if I think my viewers will too. Okay, so just bear that in mind when we're looking at this, but it's a completely unbiased review. I'm going to tell you the good and the bad with this light. Now, not so much of a caveat, but maybe something worth noting before you watch this video is that if you're a full professional videographer or photographer with your own huge lighting setup in your own studio and you're looking for something to match the color values of all of those, this may not be for you. It may be worth looking at the Pro version, which I'll also link on the page and above, because this one, the CRI values don't quite match what the specs are on their website, only by a few points, but it may be enough to sort of throw your lighting out of balance. But if you're a beginner or an intermediate, this light has got so much going for it, it's worth watching on. I think this is a great light. So first of all, I'm going to quickly run through the light itself and show you what it's all about, the build quality and things like that. So this is actually a very heavy light. If I'm going to compare it throughout this video with the Aputure 120D. I've had this light for a long time. I use this in the studio all the time. I haven't got it on today, which is why there's no light on this side, but you can see the difference in size there between these two. It's quite noticeable. Obviously they're different power outputs. This one's 120, this one's 300 watts. So you can see already it's a much bigger light than this. I love this light. I think it's really good, the Aputure, but there's got downsides, which you're going to see in a minute when compared to this light. So this is a much bigger light and it's fairly heavy. It's very robust though, despite its price, which we'll come to later. This is actually a really robust feeling light. The handle on the back is plastic and people were thinking, okay, maybe that could break, but I'm holding it like this, taking the full weight, which is about 2.1 kilogram or something. So it's taking the whole of that weight. So don't worry about that. They've thought it through, and that's really kind of tough plastic. The C stand here is actually made of metal, which is great. It feels really durable, as are all of these controls, all the things on the back. The thing is made of mostly plastic and aluminium, and it feels pretty good. So there is one caveat with this, when it comes to the plastic on the front. You can see with the Aputure, the actual light itself comes out of the recesses, or it comes out of the recess, whereas this one, you can see it's built inside. Now that can present heat problems, but there is a bit of a space around the outside here when the light's on full power to dissipate that heat. But also what another reviewer has noticed, that if you put a heavy softbox on this, the link up the top here, this plastic can get warm. And I think it was after a full day's use on full power with a heavy softbox on, it just very slightly created a very small indent there. Didn't fall out, nothing went wrong, nothing melted, but it was just enough all day with a heavy softbox on just to make that go a little bit aury, if you like. The input at the bottom here, where the light gets sucked in, this is made of plastic, obviously to keep the weight down, but on the top where the heat dissipates and comes out, it's made of aluminium, brushed aluminium, so obviously that doesn't melt either, so when the temperature comes out, it's all good to go. And I must say, it's a very silent fan, and it runs at about 32 to 34 decibels. So it's a really well built light, good design. It feels properly solid, so it's the kind of light I'd be happy to use. Now on the back here, a couple of gripes on the back. You've got the power out input there, which we'll come to, which is a massive bonus, I'll tell you about in a sec. But next to it is the on-off switch. It's quite thin and it's really close to the cable input. So at least you can follow the cable if you're in the dark, and you'll find that anyway. But it's just a little bit close for my liking. And then you've got the menu button up the top. You've got an LCD screen there. It's not touch screen. And then here you've got your adjustability. Now the control here it's got two bits, solid bits at the top and bottom. So it means you're not going to bump into it and change those values by mistake easily. But it goes in like 0.1 increments. So it's really kind of fine adjustments. But if you're turning it gently, it will go up really small increments, so it works really well. But to get to the highest value from 0 to 100, you can just literally flick it with your thumb and it gets there almost instantly. Overall, I think it's really good. Now, with the app, which comes with it, which I'd recommend you actually go to the Play Store or the Apple Store to download. Make sure you get the right one. It's the GVM2 app, and that one works perfectly with this, and it's a fantastic app. It works really, really well, and I would recommend using that over and above the buttons on the back. So we'll go through the app in a little bit more detail in a while, but what I also want to show you are the two other things that come with this light. One of them is this ridiculously huge kind of reflector, and it's fantastic. It actually focuses the light a lot more than it would with the smaller one on, say, the Aputure. That splays the lighter quite a bit more. This one focuses a bit more, and it makes the power output incredibly high. I'm going to show you an example of how I use this and how you may use it in the future if you were to buy one of these, just to get some really creative slow-mo stuff. But the best thing about this light, I think, is the AIO all-in-one. Now, one of the reasons this is so much bigger than, say, the Aputure, even the Aputure 300, is that everything is inside the light. And what I mean by that is the other accessory you get is this fantastic, powerful cable. So I'm not so sure about this input here. It's not as good as the larger ones, but I've never had it fall out. But this is a very, very long, very durable and very robust cable. And that is all you need to power this light. And that is really significant, because once you've got it plugged in, you can move it about without all the gubbins that come with other kind of COB lights. So I'm going to put that down, and I'll show you what I mean with the Aputure. So this is a fairly small light, and you think, okay, great, small stand, that would be fantastic for moving around. But what this comes with is all the other bits and pieces. So I'll show you them here. This is what it comes with. You've got along two cables, and you've got the actual power unit itself. This is where you adjust everything. Then you've got the brick here for the main power input. Okay, so all of that comes with that light. This is actually bigger than the light itself. One of the reasons this isn't so good is that because it gets bashed about so much as I'm moving things about, the actual aerial for the remote there is broken. Okay, so it's a bit of a pain. It still works, but the wires are still there, but the rest of it's broken because it gets moved about so much. So when I'm moving this Aputure light around all the time, everything's dangling off, and it's quite heavy, and it's bashing into things, so it's a real pain. So just having this cable going into this, it makes it really perfect for a studio setup where you don't want all that gubbins on the outside, especially when coupled with the app. The CRI ratings are a bit all over the place, so I'm going to go through the screen here, and I'm going to show you their website, because it's quite strange. So if we look at the website here, you can see at the top it says it's a high CRI for true to life color, and it says CRI 97+. But if we just scroll down to their little chart here, you can see that the CRI on their own website, just below where they say it's 97+, only goes to 96 and down as far as 93.7. So you do have to bear in mind that CRI value will alternate and will change. So like I said, if you're running a professional system that you really need accurate CRI values, maybe go for the professional version of this, okay? But for anyone else, people like myself that just use lighting for basic lighting setups, it's absolutely fine. The controls on the back are fairly basic, but the app is better. Then the pricing we're going to come to at the end, where it's a bit all over the place, and there's also no case or bag. So obviously the Aputure came with a really, really good carry case. This one comes with nothing, so you just have to bear that in mind if you're likely to take this on location for property shoots, or maybe out on a portrait shoot in the woods or something like that. So just bear in mind there's no bag with this. So I'm going to quickly run through the app now just to show you what it's got. It pairs really, really easily via Bluetooth Wi-Fi. So once you've got it set up, you haven't got to worry about it, because as soon as you turn the light on and the app, it'll connect every single time you go back to it. Okay, so when we look at the first menu, you've got three items on there. You've got the CCT values, then you've got all the 12 special effects, then you've got source matching. Okay, so if we look at CCT, we go in there and you can change the color values, color temperatures, and also the output. So at the moment, this is on 0. You can see on the screen it's on 0. So if I put this up to just 1% or 0.1%, you can actually see how powerful that is. Okay, that's just on 0.1%, and that's without the dome on. So I'm going to put the dome on now and show you what these values look like. Okay, so we're going to leave that facing the back behind me, and I'm going to go through the temperatures and things like that and the power output. So like I said, that's on 0.1% at the moment. If I just tick the plus button again, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. So it can go up in very, very small increments, but there's also a slider. So I'm going to whip this straight up to 100% to show you just how bright it is. I'm not sure how it's going to look. I can see on the screen it's already looking bright behind me. Let's put that back down to 0.1. So that's just on 0.1 at the moment. I can see on the camera screen. I'm going to put it up to 100 straight away. So if you don't like bright lights, look away. but I'm going to put that straight up now, and that's on 100. It's so bright. This light is really, really powerful. Let's bring that back down again. So I think it's an exceptional light. Now I'm going to show you something to do with this now before we go on with the rest of the app. I did a test to see how this would fare with this, using it for a certain use case. So let's say you're in an office like this, or you're doing something like a property shoot, and you want to light the room or part of the house in a really uniform way. Let's turn this light right off. If you want to use that in a really kind of uniform way and have bounce flash light, if you're doing photography and you bounce the flash, you get a really nice diffused light, great for sort of portraits and things like that. So I wanted to see how this worked by bouncing off the ceiling. So I'm going to run that reel now. I did this a couple of days ago just to show you how powerful this can be and how it changes the dynamics from a light like this, where you've just got one key light, bit of shadows on the side, then you use the bounce light, and I'll show you that now. So we'll come back in a sec. Okay, so for this quick segment, what I'm going to be doing is showing you a use case scenario and the sheer power of the GVM SD300B AIO. And I want to show it by bouncing off the ceiling. So at the moment, what you're seeing is we've got some ambient light behind. You've got the bluish lights behind the cabinet there. We've got a small lamp in the corner. Then we've got a red light there and a white light that's kind of shining on me. Very low key lighting. Camera settings are 50th of a second, f5.6. and ISO at the moment of 3200, which is on auto. So what I'm going to be doing is quickly showing you how we can change from this kind of low-key lighting with a bit of shadow on this side, an ambient light showing behind, and then when we turn on the main light, the GVM, I've got it pointed at the ceiling at full power, all 300 watts, using the cone-shaped reflector, which is going straight off the ceiling. And what that's going to do, it'll take a while to adjust, but I'm going to bounce off the ceiling. That will change the whole dynamics of the lighting to a much more kind of uniform lighting, a much more diffused lighting, which I think is good for either product photography or video if you're using it on a desktop in a kind of room with a white ceiling that's fairly low, or if you're doing property photography, a diffused light like this. I use the this one here, the Aputure 120D. I use that quite a lot for shooting off the ceiling in smaller rooms in property video and photography, just to give a more uniformed light, or I use bounce flash for photography, but it gives the same kind of effect, a really nice overall look of the whole room, lighting everything really clearly to show everything off in its best kind of condition. So let's, without further ado, switch to the full power. Now it's going to go really bright, then the ISO will slowly come down to about 1600, so you should see it then end up at quite a pleasing look. So here we go. Now that is really bright, that's full 300 watts, and it's about, I can't really look at the ceiling, it's about 2 or 3 feet away from the ceiling, bouncing up and straight down. So by now that should have kind of leveled out to a kind of nice uniform look. So how does it look? You won't be able to see much of the ambient light. You can see the lamp, but you probably can't see the lights behind the cabinet. Probably see the red light. This is kind of still working. I don't know if you're seeing a shadow on my face from that, probably a little bit. But most of that light is now taken over the whole scene, but it's a really nice diffused light. So I hope you see what I mean by that. You can use this as the secondary light for bouncing. If you've got some harsher lights, you can turn that one down, so you still get that diffused light, but a lot lower, but then you use the main lights to still create a bit of a shadow. Okay, so that's it at the moment on that full light. Like I said, the table looks fantastic, so it's good for property product photography or video on a tabletop, things like that in a studio, and also good for like I say, property photography. So let's switch it back to the other lighting. It'll take a while to kind of settle and bring up that lighting again. So we're back up to about ISO 3200, but it should be again looking good, interview and pieces to camera like this review. Okay, then I'm going to switch it back again, and it should take a little time to kind of settle down. But just to give you an idea of the difference that you can make with this light, you can either have it as a key light, creating a shadow, that kind of effect, or you can have it as a bounce light. It's that powerful, you can use it as a bounce light. I could probably bring this ISO right down, open the aperture, get a much cleaner image, but it's still a really, really nice diffused look. Okay, so I hope this bit helps. Like I said, the use cases are really good for property photography or video, and also for kind of tabletop product photography and video as well. So I hope that helps. Let's go back to the review. Okay, so that's pretty cool, yeah? It works really well as a bounce light. Using this makes it really powerful if you're bouncing off a ceiling fairly low in a sort of small to medium sized room. It can look absolutely brilliant, and that's where the full power of this comes in really handy for that certain use case. So the rest of the app, so let's put this back on. I'll just put it on a fairly low kind of power. That's fairly low there. So at the moment we'll go right down to 2700 Kelvin. Let's make it a bit lower so it looks better on the background. That's on 4.4%. And then, so that's on 2700 Kelvin. We'll go right up to 6800, much more of a bluish white light. So you've got all those values in between, and they go in fairly small increments as well. Okay. Now the next thing on here, we've got, let's go back. You've got the effects. So I'm going to run through those quickly now. You've got no effects, then you've got lightning. Then we'll go to the next one, which is a CCT loop. Now these loops work really well. I'm watching the screen on my camera to see how well it works. Let's press play. So you can see it's looping through the color temperatures, and it's very, very kind of smooth. So that works really well. The next one is the candle. Press play. It just has a basic flicker now and again. Keep an eye out for it. So it's a nice one. I quite like the candle one. Then we've got a bad bulb. That just means a bad bulb is flickering. Kind of works okay. It's not working at the moment. Let's press play. So you've got that bad bulb look. That's kind of okay. Then we've got TV. Again, it's just a kind of flickering as though you're watching TV. I'm not going to go through these too much. Paparazzi. This is one where I don't, it kind of works okay. You can change the values, so you can actually change the interval. So if I speed it up, the interval gets a lot lower. That looks pretty good. Then we've got explosion. Kind of works okay, but you have to put it on full. Let's press play. It's just going through those sort of the brightness and color temperature. So it just looks like a huge explosion. Okay, you can change all the values of that as well, and the rate. Then we've got pulsing. Pulsing's quite nice because, like I say, it's really kind of smooth. Works really well. You can change the interval, the speed of the pulsing, and the color temperatures and the rate of pulses, things like that. Then we've got strobe. Look away if you don't like bright lights and flashing lights. I'm going to put it now. So it's just a strobe. It's just going off one at a time. The interval you can change. Let's put that, the brightness right up. Put the rate down. Then put the rate up. Okay, so there's all the different parameters you can change, including the temperature values and things like that. Then we've got fire. It's kind of nice if you've got a fireplace in the shot, and you're cutting to a shot of the people in the scene, and then you can have that, just this light on them. Let's bring the color temperature right down and put the rate up. So it's just like a flickering fire. Well, it looks quite nice. Then we've got fireworks again. There's no colors, there's no RGB, so it's not going to look like a proper firework display, but it could look quite good just coming through the window and things like that. We can put the interval, the power up, put the rate up, and it's kind of okay. But like I say, no color, it doesn't look realistic. Then the welding, this is one that I mentioned before. So you'd expect a kind of slightly different look. I'm looking on the screen now. The rate is on full at the moment, so it's just flashing. There's none of that, you know, the quick succession. Let's put that rate down. And then put the interval up. I've seen a lot of welding, and this that doesn't really look like welding to me. You'd expect the really short ones as well, as it flickers like all the sparks coming off and things like that. So it's kind of okay, but it's, yeah, there's some usable ones in there, and it works really well. So that's basically it for the whole of the gubbins and everything like that. So I'm quickly going to run through the use cases now, because I think these are quite interesting. It's a good all-round light for most projects. So light is just light, so it's how you use it. I'm not a full professional lighting engineer, so I just basically do it as I see it. So I'll set lights up, I'll do a test shot, see what it looks like, and then I'll move from there, and I'll set everything up. So if I'm doing a wedding, for example, I'll do a test run before the actual group shots come into view, things like that. Make sure it's all good, and then I know that it's going to be good throughout the shoot. When it comes to properties, I do it on the fly. So I turn up to a room. All rooms are different sizes, so I'll either bounce the Aputure 120D or the 300, depending on the size of the room, bounce off the ceiling, have a look through camera, take a couple of shots, make sure it's all good, make some adjustments, maybe move some furniture, add a couple of lights somewhere else. So I'll do it on the fly. So all I'm using then is the power of the lights and the color temperature. Another one is, like I said, this will give you that really nice bounce look. We've already seen that, but that is a fantastic one. So if you are doing properties, even photography or video, it doesn't matter, because it'll give that really nice uniform diffused light. And that will work well as well for portraits, things like that. If you just want to have a nice kind of diffused light with a kind of key light going onto one side, so you haven't got really harsh shadows, this will just fill it in with a bit of bounce light. It looks really nice. Then you've got weddings, portraits, interviews it's good for. So I use these lights a lot for this kind of work. But this is a more powerful light. It will work outside as well. So if you were doing shots outside, photography or video, and you've got a powerful backlight from the sun, this will work really nicely, especially with a diffuser on and with a softbox, just to give that nice kind of fill-in light. So it's so versatile. But one of the other ones that you saw on the opening to this video that I think is good, it's so powerful at close quarters, especially with this on, you're going to get some super fast shutter speeds. So if you're doing slow motion video where you need to use like 240 frames a second, you're going to need a lot of light, especially if you're using an aperture of f5.6 or f8. You're going to need a hell of a lot of light, and this about 2 meters away. I'm going to run it as I'm talking as well. I'll run that clip again now, but you can see that I got shutters of about 1/15,000th of a second with f5.6 at ISO 1000 or 2000. That means for photography, I can either freeze the frame perfectly, but if you're going to do that, you can film at things like 6K at 30 frames a second, and then obviously stop the action. And every single one of those frames in video is going to be perfectly sharp because you've got such a fast shutter speed, and it works really well. So if you want to be creative with a close-up light for kind of either freeze frame or, you know, burst a balloon with water in it, that kind of thing, it's going to work really well for that, especially with high frame rate video. Okay, so there's so much to this light. It works really well. Overall, I would give it a big thumbs up. But like I said, if you're a full professional in a studio with an existing lighting setup where you need those really crucial CRI values, maybe look at the Pro version. But for a beginner or intermediate where you just need a really good powerful light for all of your photography or video, this is definitely worth it. So much like the CRI values being slightly off on GVM's own website, 97 plus at the top, go down to the bit down below and it says it's 96 down to 93.7 based on the color temperature you're using. I find that a little bit odd in their advertising. It's a bit like that with the pricing. So at the moment on Amazon, you can get this for $249.99. That, in my opinion, makes this great value. If you're a beginner or a intermediate that just needs a light for all of the things we talked about, I would grab one at that price. It's cheaper than most other COB lights at this kind of price range or this kind of feature set. So I would definitely recommend that. If you're a professional and you need that powerful light, again, it's probably worth it. If you're not matching with other lights for the color temperatures and things like that, then I think this is actually a good buy as well. But if we go to B&H in the States, they've currently got this very light on for $399, which is about £320. Yeah, that's kind of a strange. What's even stranger, if you go to the Pro version of this light, now they're not RGB, I did say it was RGB earlier, but they're not. It's just a Pro version of this light where the back of the light has got a lot more functionality. It's just a better light overall with better CRI values, so it's a more of a professional light for you pros out there. You'll find this interesting. They've got this at $399, the Pro version is $269, go figure. So if you're looking at those, I'll leave a link to B&H down below. So if you want to grab one of these in the States, one of the Pro versions for $269, that makes a hell of a lot of sense as opposed to $399 for this one. It's slightly better construction as well. So I would actually look at that if you're living in the States. That's an absolute bargain. Then if we go to their own website, GVM's own website, they've currently got this light, not the Pro version, they've got this light on for £478.80, that's pounds sterling. So it's nearly £500. That's twice the price they've got it on Amazon for. I just don't understand this. That's almost enough to put people off this light because everything's all over the place a little bit. But the light itself is what matters. The power output's there, all of the features are there, the portability with this all-in-one kind of single cable. It's a good light, but all of the other stuff is just a little bit strange. But for me, as a kind of professional but not professional lighting engineer, where I don't need to match tons and tons of lights, I think this is good because all I do is do it all on the fly. Whether I'm doing property photography or doing weddings, things like that, I set it up on the fly, make sure it's all looking good through the camera, do a couple of test shots and I'm good to go. I don't go down to that nth degree with all of the different light setups. So if you're like me and you just use it for basic kind of things, then I would 100% recommend this light. But like I said, if you're in England, go to Amazon. I'll leave the link down below, $249.99. If you're in the States, go to B&H and get the Pro version for $269. Okay, so that's it for this light in this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, remember to give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and if you haven't done so already, remember to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next video.